Welcome back to the Michael Cohen Show on our continued journey to 250,000 subscribers. We're 9,000 short, thanks to you. So hit the subscribe button, watch, but most importantly, share with your friends because there's a lot going on, and there's going to be a lot going on every single day. Now, I want to talk to you about some breaking news. Breaking news. A federal appeals court, that's the Second Circuit here in New York, federal court, has upheld the E. Jean Carroll case, the $5 million civil judgment against now President-elect Donald Trump. Now, I want you all to remember this because everybody keeps saying, oh, it's $100 million. Remember something. There's two separate cases. This is the very first of the two cases where E. Jean Carroll was awarded $5 million for the sexual assault and the defamation case. All right. And I want to show you the breaking headline as well as to discuss it. Appeals court upholds $5 million E. Jean Carroll verdict against Trump. And remember that it was a jury handed down the award after finding that Trump was liable for sexually abusing and defaming the writer, which of course, by the way, he continues to deny. And here's what it says. That a federal appeals court, again, it's the Second Circuit here in New York, has upheld writer E. Jean Carroll's $5 million civil judgment. Very important you understand that. This is not a criminal case. This is a civil case, and it is a civil judgment against President-elect Donald Trump. The jury awarded Carroll the sum in 2023 after finding Trump liable for sexually abusing her in the 1990s and then defaming her after she went public with her allegations. All right. Now, there's more here, obviously, to this story. There's so much that went on into this, what's called per curiam, which is where they make their determination and they explain why. So they begin by talking about the background of the case, what happened here. All right. And I want to show you part of the order and take you through it. So let me begin with this. In this case, it was a 9-day trial. A jury found, and again, this is a jury trial, a civil jury trial, found that plaintiff appellee E. Jean Carroll was sexually abused by defendant appellant Donald J. Trump at the Bergdorf Goodman department store in Manhattan in 1996. The jury also found that Mr. Trump defamed her in statements that he made in 2022. So I'm sure you could imagine knowing Donald Trump as we know him. We're talking about 26 years later. 26 years later, he's now claiming none of this ever happened, turns around, calls her a liar. Ultimately, the jury awards Ms. Carroll a total of $5 million in both compensatory and punitive damages. Next part. Here's the background that I was referring to. On appeal from a jury verdict, which again is the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, the Court of Appeals is bound. This is very important that you understand where this decision came from. The Court of Appeals is bound to, and here's the quote, construe all evidence, draw all inferences, and make all credibility determinations in favor of the party who prevailed before the jury. And remember, this was before Judge Lewis Kaplan. All right, here, that party is Miss Carroll. And we describe the narrative heard by the jury accordingly. Mr. Trump did not testify at trial, but has denied the allegations that he engaged in any sexual misconduct with Miss Carroll and that he defamed her. Moving forward, it turns around and it says, this is the Bergdorf Goodman assault, that in 1996, Miss Carroll encountered Mr. Trump at the Bergdorf Goodman department store in Manhattan. At the time, Miss Carroll was an advice columnist for Elle magazine and hosted a daily advice talk show called Ask E. Jean. Mr. Trump recognized Miss Carroll and asked her to stay and help him pick a gift for a girl, describing this as a funny New York scene and a wonderful prospect for a born advice columnist to give advice to Mr. Trump on buying a gift, Miss Carroll said yes. It then goes on. After Miss Carroll suggested that Mr. Trump purchase a handbag or a hat, Mr. Trump proposed that they go to the lingerie department instead. Miss Carroll and Mr. Trump went to the lingerie department on the 6th floor. Mr. Trump selected a piece of lingerie and insisted that Miss Carroll try it on. Miss Carroll jokingly responded, "You put it on. It's your color." After some playful banter, Mr. Trump took Miss Carroll's arm and motioned for her to go to the dressing room with him. Because Mr. Trump was being very light, next part, and pleasant and funny, which he can be, Miss Carroll walked with Mr. Trump into the open dressing room, which she described as sort of an open area. But as soon as she entered, Mr. Trump immediately shut the door and shoved her against the wall so hard that her head banged. Miss Carroll pushed Mr. Trump back, but he thrust her back against the wall again, causing her to bang her head yet again. With his shoulder and the whole weight of his body against her, Mr. Trump held her against the wall, kissed her, pulled down her tights, and stuck his fingers into her vagina until Miss Carroll managed to get a knee up and push him back off her. She immediately exited the room and left the store as quickly as she could. The encounter lasted just a few minutes. I'm sure many people, including, of course, after Mr. Trump's comments, say, "Really? 26 years?" Well, it turns out that within a day, Miss Carroll had told two friends, a Lisa Birnbach and Carol Martin, about the sexual assault, despite the fact she did not report the incident to the police or share it publicly for over 2 decades. While conducting interviews for a book that she was writing in 2017, the accounts of assaults perpetrated by Harvey Weinstein came to light and received nationwide attention. Okay, let me be very clear about something. This Second Circuit matter, this is about legit whether or not Donald Trump's attorney, Sauer, made arguments which would be strong enough, as I explained earlier, to infer something different than what the jury had determined. What we just did there is we went through very, very briefly, the 9 days of trial that took place in this case. And the important part of that is that you understand that the Second Circuit, they are obligated within which to infer things in light most favorable to the victor from the lower court. And so they did it here as well. The implication to Donald Trump, to President-elect Trump, is that this matter, unless, of course, he's going to try to appeal it yet again to the state Supreme Court, this matter is over. He is going to owe E. Jean Carroll the $5 million plus statutory interest, which carries here in New York a 9% per annum. Shouldn't be, it's not an issue here, by the way, about the money. As I'm sure you've read, since Trump became president-elect, he's made $3 billion. Yeah, $3 billion, which pales in comparison to Elon Musk, who has made over $240 billion, right? But $3 billion, he's going to have no problem with coming up and paying off that $5 million, which, by the way, there's a bond on it anyway. The real issue is what happens to the second part of this case, the ongoing continuous defamation, which now brings the total to what Trump will owe E. Jean Carroll, which is approximately $100 million. 100. I mean, the numbers that we see on a daily basis these days is insane. Insane. I do believe on the next go around, which is going to be the bigger amount, that I believe that the Second Circuit may end up referring it back to the court in order to reevaluate the damages, because the damages are certainly excessive. Nevertheless, 100 million versus 3 billion earned, not an issue any longer for President-elect Trump. Now you understand what's going on here, not to mention the fact that Democrats and opponents of Trump will always now be able to say that Donald Trump was found guilty of civil sexual assault. Plain and simple. That's where we're at. And as always, thanks for listening.
Hey, everyone. First of all, thanks for watching. I mean, we're going to be posting daily episodes with reactions and talking about politics. We'll be talking about everything, in fact. So please like and subscribe. Join us on this journey.